Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm David Goldberg, President of the Investor Source and Manager of Investor Source Private Lending Fund Number 1, LLC. I'm going to interview myself today and speak about making private loans using your self-directed retirement account. I'm going to say IRA for short, but the principles apply to certain 401ks, as well as IRAs. I wouldn't say I'm an expert regarding IRAs, but I've been making private loans for over 10 years. Investing with funds sitting in your IRA to make private or hard money loans is an exceptional way to grow your nest egg. There are numerous advantages, which I'll get into. Are there risks? Of course, but done smartly, I believe the rewards far outweigh the risks. Today, I'll talk about the basics. First, you'll need a custodian that is set up to allow private lending as an IRA option. Not all of them do. People tend to refer to them as self-directed IRA companies. But in fact, all IRAs are self-directed. I use New Direction, but there are many of them out there and a lot of good ones. So what kind of loans are we talking about when we're talking about lending in our IRA? Well, there are actually numerous types of loans you could make legally in your IRA, like small business loans, personal loans, automobile loans, etc. Many require a certain license, like home loans and pawn shop loans. My recommendation is to stay away from most of these loans. The loans my company makes are all secured by real estate, like fix and flips and new construction. And those are the loans I recommend and are my area of expertise. There are actually 3 ways you can make real estate loans in your IRA. Number 1, you can find, screen, and fund your own loans and borrowers, get your own title insurance, inspect and pay out your own rehab and construction draws, stay compliant with your IRA companies, etc., and put all your loan docs together and record them with the county. Very many steps to have to do it on your own. Or you can use a broker or hard money lender like the Investor Source to perform all of these tasks for you to fund individual loans on your own. Third, you can use a broker or hard money lender like the Investor Source, but put your funds into a pooled lending fund with other investors where you are actually funding a small slice of all loans in the fund, both past and future. Which of these do I recommend? Well, if you're brand new to lending, I definitely don't recommend option 1, where you're funding a deal on your own. Nor do I recommend that for experienced lenders. There's just too many pitfalls and too much work. Honestly, if I wasn't doing private lending full-time, I wouldn't want to be making loans on my own. The advantage of going alone is that you would get to keep any origination points you charged. I, though, recommend options 2 or 3, using a broker or hard money lender like Investor Source to do all of the dirty work for you. And then of those 2 options, my recommendation is option 3, a fund type of situation for the following reasons. Number 1, your risk is spread amongst all of the loans in the fund, not just one deal. So if any of the deals in the fund happen to go south, which is rare, but if it does happen, all of the other loans in the fund help to cushion the blow. Number 2, it is a more passive investment than funding individual loans. So you don't have to get into the weeds and figure out which loans you want to fund, and this will save you time. Number 3, your funds in a fund are working 24/7, 365, whereas if you fund individual loans, there's always some downtime in between loans paying off and the next loan starting, and your overall return is decreased during that downtime. Number 4, higher return. Believe it or not, even though there are fees paid to the fund manager and to the loan originator, a pooled lending fund can actually have higher returns than a one-off loan. Why? Because the fund manager has tools at his disposal, like leverage, which an individual loan just does not. And number 5, more opportunities. Most hard money lenders who raise capital from other investors have set up a fund structure and tend to give priority to fund loans over individual loans if they still make these individual loans at all and fund them with individual investors. The advantages of investing in a one-off deal are greater control over choosing loans that you want to fund and having your name on the note and deed of trust. So now let's talk about the advantages of private lending in your IRA compared to other investments. Number 1, above average returns. Our fund is consistently returning double-digit annualized returns each month, and other funds out there are not far behind. You're probably thinking that the loans we make must be terribly risky in order to get those kind of returns, but that's actually a fallacy. Investors come to us for funding not out of desperation, but because they need their funds quickly. Their deals have certain quirks that banks are just not comfortable and set up to deal with, and that in general, banks don't lend on distressed properties. Construction loans, which the banks do make, tend to have a lot of red tape and are much smoother to get with a hard money lender who are set up to service construction loans and draws. Number 2, we're talking advantages here. The security of your investment. All real estate loans are secured by that real estate, and almost all are secured in the first position. And on top of that, the loan is then personally guaranteed by the borrower. How many other investments do you know that are secured by anything? Yes, bank deposits are secured by the FDIC, and that security guarantees you a return on your savings of what? 0.5%? Tax advantages. For those of you who are listening because you're deciding whether you want to lend with your personal money or money from an IRA, your IRA lending, of course, will grow tax-free, whereas it will be taxed as ordinary income if you're lending it personally. So those tax advantages are for real. Professionally managed. If you choose to lend using a broker or hard money lender like us, your money will be professionally managed by a company with, with 10 years experience and a team devoted to screening for the best possible borrowers and deals and underwriting every deal as if we were lending our own money. And oftentimes we are lending our own money in the fund. So we have that vested interest to make the fund or to make that fund successful, as all lenders do. And number 5, investing with a purpose. Now, you're not going to see this on most lists of lending advantages, but I personally think it is an extremely important reason to choose private lending in your IRA. The loans we help investors make help them build and rehab properties, providing housing and helping to improve communities by upgrading homes and just making the quality of life within those communities better as the houses gain in value and people just take pride in where they're living. So I think our investors at Investors Source who lend their money for these kind of worthwhile projects feel really good about the impact that their money is making in communities, helping communities thrive, also helping the investors themselves realize their dreams by getting the money they need to do their projects. To summarize, the benefits of lending with your IRA are numerous, the main ones being the above average returns, security, tax advantages, professional management, and purpose. Well, those are the basics of lending in your retirement account. I know it is getting more and more difficult to find investments these days that make a lot of sense. Lending in your retirement account is one of those hidden gems that can help you secure your future through an investment that just makes a lot of sense. Believe me, I know, been doing it for 10 years and people have been making a lot of money doing this and feeling good about what they're investing in. So thank you very much. Consider private lending in your IRA, and we'll see you next time.